Hey everyone, I am back with another video, and in this video I will be making a top 10 of my favorite Transformers figures that I've gotten during 2020. Now, 2020 has been a horrible year, and by the time this video is done, it will be 2021, but I just thought I would start off 2021 with a bang, just as I ended 2020 with my Studio Series ranking. Now this list will be purely on my opinion, and I will include honorable mentions. So without further ado, let's get into number 10. Number 10 on my top 10 favorite figures of 2020 is going to the 3-pack of RC Chromia and Elita 1 in the Studio Series line. Now, they have taken the 10th spot because of their combined mode, along with the fact that they are small figures, and while they are good figures, I had to give someone at number 10, and sadly it had to go to these three, but I'm not trying to bash them in any way. Like I said, they're good figures, and their combined mode, which is based on concept art, is well done, but they're not as enjoyable as the top 5 on my list. Number 9 on my list is going to the Studio Series Dark of the Moon Soundwave. For those of you who do not know, Soundwave is actually one of my favorite Decepticons, not just from the movies, but also the G1 series and the Aligned continuity, as those have my favorite incarnations of Soundwave to date. And Studio Series really gave Soundwave a proper figure, in the sense that Hasbro had cancelled the original Deluxe and Human Alliance Soundwave figures that came out before it. Now, I have given him a blaster from my collection of figures that have weapons, so that's to make up for the fact that while he comes with Laserbeak, he is missing his cannons. So overall, I did enjoy Soundwave after I opened him up, played with him. You can check out his review. I will leave links and iCards to all the figures I have reviewed in 2020. So yeah, with all that being said, I think Soundwave, while he's a good figure, takes number 9 on my list. Number 8 on my list is going to Voyager Class Mixmaster, one of the first Studio Series figures I've had in 2020, and an enjoyable one until I got, well, more figures over time. Now, this is probably the most accurate Mixmaster figure, along with transforming into a rather accurate Devastator head. As I've said in my Studio Series ranking video, Mixmaster is crucial when forming the Studio Series Devastator, and he is quite poseable, as I've tried to get him to a rather dynamic pose. What he does lack is a bit of movement in the feet and in the waist, but then that's due to his design. But yeah, there isn't really much to say about Mixmaster that I haven't already said in my review and ranking of my Studio Series figures. But yeah, Mixmaster takes number 8 on my list. Number 7 on my top 10 list is going to the War for Cybertron Earthrise Voyager Starscream. Now, number 7 was a difficult spot because I had to pick either Starscream or another character that is actually going to take number 6 on my list, but Starscream had to take number 7, and I'm not trying to bash the figure, as I think this is one of the best G1 Starscream figures we've ever gotten, but this is essentially the original Classics / Universe Seeker mold upscaled into a Voyager class format and fit into the Wolf of Cybertron trilogy. Now, what is holding Starscream back is the fact that he doesn't have any form of wrist rotation or waist rotation. He does keep the traditional ankle rocker joint, and he does come with the classic no raise, which can be handheld as well, or stored on his wings, and his Earth mode jet is accurate to his original G1 appearance. But overall he is a good figure, but he is lacking in some areas that I've pointed out, despite him being rather articulated. So with all that being said, Starscream from Earthrise takes spot number 7 on my list. Taking the 6th spot on my list goes to the Wolf of Cybertron Siege Hound. Now this is the Netflix repaint of the Siege Hound figure, as I had missed out on that original release. Now, while the Earthrise Starscream has taken number 7, it was either him or Hound, but I think Hound outwins Starscream because he can pose quite well, because he has a wrist rotation, he has ankle pivots, and even a waist rotation, and you can do a lot with his shoulder cannon and handheld blaster, along with the fact that I've never had any form of Hound, whether from G1 or the movies, but I think this is going to be my default Hound figure due to, well, all the reasons I have listed. Now, I do forget to mention the transformations, but you can check out my reviews of those characters to see the transformations as I go into them in more detail. But yeah, Hound here definitely takes the cake for being one of my favorite figures from the Wolf of Cybertron trilogy thus far, and sadly the only Siege figure I have in my collection. But with that being said, Hound is a good figure, and if you missed out on the original Siege Hound, get the Netflix repaint as a stand-in, and I highly recommend you pick him up. Taking the 5th spot on my top 10 favorite figures of 2020 is going to the Leader Class Scavenger from Studio Series. Now, Scavenger was a figure and character that definitely needed a proper update in a line like this, because the original 2009 Voyager figure, which was given the name Demolisher, was a good figure for its time, as I've mentioned in my Studio Series ranking video, but it wasn't really in scale. So this figure obliterates the original Voyager and is quite articulated. Now, I have gone full depth into Scavenger in my review of him, so you can check that out. I will put an iCard in the video. Now, I have tried to get him into a dynamic pose like I have with all my other figures, and he can pose, but he will require some balance with one of his arms, since he cannot balance on his wheel unless you have like a flat surface. But yeah, overall, Scavenger definitely made it into my top 5 favorite figures of 2020 because he's rather enjoyable in his robot mode as well as his excavator alternate mode, and the transformation into his combined form is, well, you find yourself kind of confused as to what's going where, and the instructions kind of don't help, as you have to figure it out on your own sometimes, but then you'll be afraid to break something, and that's because all the joints are tight. So yeah, overall Scavenger is a good figure, and he got lucky as he made it into my top 5 favorite figures of 2020. Taking the 4th spot on my list is going to the Earthrise Voyager class Snapdragon. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, triple changing figure in my collection I have thus far, though he will be topped by possibly my number 1 and number 2 figure on my list. Now, he is a bit lacking in the elbow and hand articulation, as sadly his hands have to become the feet for his beast mode, and they don't have any rotation, and the elbows are quite limited, but what he makes up for is the ankle rocker joints as well as the waist rotation, along with the fact that he has his headmaster Krunk, which can form part of his beast mode head as well as serve as a pilot for his jet alternate mode. And yeah, he also comes with blasters as well, meaning he is definitely one of my personal favorite figures to come out of 2020, and I'm glad I got him while I had the chance. So yeah, overall, Snapdragon, while I did miss out on his partner Apeface, who came out in Siege, I'm glad I got the Earthrise Snapdragon, as he's definitely a good figure. So with that being said, he definitely takes number 4 on my list. Taking the 3rd spot on my top 10 list is going to the Studio Series Leader Class Overload. Now, if you have seen my Studio Series ranking, you will know that Overload has become not only my favorite Leader Class figure, but my favorite Studio Series figure in general, as he has taken the top spot on that list and has made it into number 3 on this top 10 favorite figures of 2020 list. As you can see, he is quite articulated due to the 4 arms he has, as well as having ankle tilts, and that's due to how he transforms, along with him being the lower torso of the Studio Series Devastator. Now, of course, he transforms into a rather long vehicle, and as you can see, now all of the individual claws are articulated as well. Now, he doesn't have any form of waist joint, but that doesn't really detract from the playability factor of this figure. So yeah, and seeing as he is a concept character, he never transformed into his robot mode, despite actually being in the movie. So yeah, I think Overload definitely deserves a place in my collection, and definitely made it into the top 5 on this top 10 list. So overall, Overload definitely is a good figure, and I highly recommend picking him up to complete the Studio Series Devastator. Taking the 2nd and runner-up spot of my top 10 list is going to the War for Cybertron Earthrise Leader Class Optimus Prime. Wow, I was blown away by this figure, as I've never had any Optimus Prime figure in my collection, which should be surprising to all of you. And I'm actually giving this figure quite a bit of praise, as he is close to number 1. He actually would have been number 1 if it wasn't for another character in the Earthrise line that will take the top spot on my list. But Optimus is definitely a good contender, because not only does the Leader Class... Now, the Leader Class Optimus is essentially the Voyager Class Optimus with his trailer. Optimus comes with his Ion Blaster. His trailer comes with a repair bay, which also acts as his combat deck, as well as a shield that is formed from a part of his trailer, along with the Matrix of Leadership. So the trailer and all the other accessories that are part of the trailer, along with the Matrix inside of Optimus's chest, definitely make up for the Leader Class price point. Now, overall, he is a good figure, and there is a Netflix repaint of Optimus being released right now. So if you missed out on the Leader Class Optimus, I recommend picking up the Netflix Optimus, as that Optimus will come with 2 extra Battle Masters, and is $10 less than Leader Class figures. So overall, and as you can see, he is quite posable. I have him standing on his leg, I have him standing on one of his legs in a rather dynamic pose. So yeah, Optimus Prime from the Earthrise toy line definitely deserved the 2nd spot and would have deserved the number 1 spot if it wasn't for another character. I will take the number 1 spot. Now before we get to my number 1 pick, an honorable mention is going to the Decepticon Micromaster Racetrack Patrol, which is consisted of Roller Force and Groundhog. Now I have not reviewed these figures yet, and I don't really see them as worth reviewing because they're Micromasters, and their transformation into weapons is rather useless and pointless, so they couldn't be placed anywhere on the list, but I had to give them an honorable mention. Taking the number 1 spot on my top 10 list of favorite figures from 2020 is going to none other than the Leader Class Double Dealer. While the Earthrise Optimus is a good figure, I think Double Dealer outwins him for being a mercenary, along with transforming into the updated modes of his original Power Master toy, and essentially being one of the highlights out of the Wolf Cybertron trilogy thus far, along with coming with a slew of accessories. The transformation is complex but effective, and that's probably what I like most about this figure. He has a lot of play value, and the accessories help with the play value, along with the fact that you can make him into an Autobot or a Decepticon. So, yeah, with all that being said, Double Dealer was quite a strong contender. He would have been number 2, but I decided to give the 2nd place to Optimus Prime. And Double Dealer definitely makes up, as he is a strong Leader Class figure. So, yeah, number 1 on my top 10 favorite figures from 2020 definitely goes to the Earthrise Leader Class Double Dealer. So there you have it, everyone. That just about wraps up my top 10 list, my list of top 10 favorite Transformers figures to come out of 2020. Now this video will be released in 2021 by the time of this recording. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Do you agree with my list? What figures do you have that you would put in the top 10? Of course, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you all soon.